we have reached a bottom finally, both in Bitcoin and in Bitcoin treasury companies. We're seeing Bitcoin slowly moving up, every indicator on green on the macro. And also the Bitcoin treasury companies are actually outperforming Bitcoin even on this slight move up. We see Metaplanet has been green on the last few trading days, trading almost up to 12% today. So it looks like the momentum is shifting a bit, and a lot of good news coming out of those companies. And again, for me, the most bullish sign is the liquidity of MSTR's common stock, and it shows that they still have a lot of possibilities to raise more capital to buy more Bitcoin. And at some point, the sellers will be exhausted here, and everybody who sold because of the 4-year cycle will have sold. And then if the buying continues, there's only one way Bitcoin can go.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Chair. None of what you will hear is financial advice, and this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to start talking about the huge buy that Strategy had earlier this week. So they bought 10,624 Bitcoin, and they acquired it mostly with their common share, so MSTR. And that was very interesting because I think that caught a lot of people off guard, considering that the share is close to 1 MNAV, and lately they haven't utilized a lot their common share. The only reason they did that was actually a couple of weeks ago when they bought their or when they amassed their USD reserve, so the 1.4 billion of cash that they now have. And so this was quite interesting to see, and it also caught me off guard, to be honest. Actually, it got me even more FOMO somehow, because that's just showing me how Saylor is relentless. He will go at it. He is tired of waiting. Bitcoin at these prices is a great opportunity, and so he seized it. Even though it's still accretive, but it's not as accretive. And I think he realized that the market is just primed for a bounce back. And he probably knows something. That's now speculation on my side. But I do believe that throughout his talks that he has had, especially lately in the Middle East. So he did mention that he was in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, and there I think he's having some pretty interesting discussions, and I think we will talk about it as well because he had some really interesting keynotes as well. But maybe just to come back to the initial buy, what are your thoughts on that one, Quentin?
I was surprised as well, pleasantly surprised. It's impressive how liquid the common stock of Strategy is. Looking at their purchases of 1.4 billion for their USD cash reserve, and then back to back, then following up with over 900 million the week after to buy more Bitcoin. So this means they issued over 2.3 billion worth of stock over the last 3 weeks. And it was only 13 trading days because Thanksgiving was also within those 3 weeks. So it's just massive. It's just crazy how much they are able to raise, especially given the market environment, right? We're at the backdrop of a Bitcoin drop of over 30%. Strategy stock is down over 60% on the year, so it's kind of the worst timing in a way, and really a bad sentiment overall on treasury companies and on Strategy. A lot of FUD out there on Strategy, and it's really just a show of strength for me how they're able to raise 2.3 billion in 3 weeks in this environment. And I think this is very, very impressive and surprising. So that's a positive. The negative is a bit, as you mentioned, it's not very accretive what they're doing, right? So the cash reserve is not accretive at all to common shareholders. So Bitcoin per share went down when they raised their USD reserve, and then those Bitcoin purchases last week were almost not accretive at all. The MNAV was, what, 1.1? In that sense, mathematically, short term, it doesn't look very, very good. Then I think it always comes back to the same point. If you think Bitcoin goes up over time, it's, in retrospect, it will have been the right choice. If Bitcoin keeps sliding and only goes down from here, then obviously it was not the best thing to do, and it will get more difficult for them to raise more funds, and the MNAV might slide back below 1 if sentiment continues to drop. So it all depends on how it will evolve, and yeah, I tend to agree with you that he knows something, because it's a very aggressive move, taking advantage of a low Bitcoin price if you think there's a recovery coming from here. So yeah, it remains a very interesting space, and the surprises keep coming with strategy. There seems to be no week like the other, and yeah, super interesting space to follow. And looking forward to next week, what surprise we have in play here.
It was Cern Basher a few months back that said that strategy, or the issuance of strategies, preferreds and stock, is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. And I tend to completely agree. Another thing I think is really interesting is exactly he's buying now as probably at a bottom, and the bears have always pounded that Saylor is buying at the top, and it looks like this time he's going to be buying at a really adequate price. Obviously, as you mentioned, not as accretive as it should be, but I'm curious to see what the bears will come out now saying on this one. Last point here is probably also coming back to fundamentals, that what you mentioned is you need to have long-term vision, right? Right now, it might not seem so accretive, but down the road, we're going to be looking at this, and it's going to be probably one of the most fantastic buys that Saylor has made in a long time, assuming that Bitcoin keeps having its grind up throughout the next few months and probably years.
Yeah, especially looking at their preferreds, right? I think this is the important point to take away here. Both of the purchases he made over the last 3 weeks, so the establishment of the USD reserve, which de-risked the preferreds massively, and then this Bitcoin purchase now of 900 million plus, which allows him to issue more preferreds, right, to lever up more at the back end of it, will be a super good move. And the first move getting more interest into the preferreds and more volumes, and the second allowing for more purchases of preferreds, and in that sense, in the mid to long term, increasing Bitcoin per share for the common shareholder, right? So in the short term it might look bad, but long term it will have been the right move, in my opinion.
And just maybe last point here is exactly, it goes to what he talked about in Abu Dhabi in one of his keynotes. He mentions that exactly they're going to be accumulating, they're not going to stop, and they're basically tired of waiting, and that's what he shows with his actions. So I think it's very aligned with what he's expecting to do. So again, I got super excited when I saw that as well.
Yeah, and we need to keep in mind the Bitcoin that he is buying. This is gone forever, right? This is not coming back on the market, except of course everything goes wrong with Bitcoin, and they are a forced seller in 4 or 5 years when their convertibles bonds come due, and they can't pay them back. Otherwise, that would be the worst case scenario. But then it means Bitcoin is down to 10,000 or lower anyway, and so something went wrong with Bitcoin. In any other scenario, all those Bitcoin are not coming back, and it really is putting a floor. Yeah, and if you look at their track record now over the last 2 years, they were on average buying over 17,000 Bitcoin per month, and it is accelerating, right? And so we can expect that to continue at a high level, and it's just massive what they're doing.
Yeah, super bullish for 2026. I don't see how this slows down anytime soon, to be honest.
Okay, so one latest piece of news that was just released today is the Fed's decision to decrease interest rates by 25 basis points in the U.S. And the most more interesting part is that they will resume not QE, right, by buying back 40 billion of treasuries in the next 30 days. So it looks like liquidity is slowly but surely coming back. I think this will also be an additional catalyst for Bitcoin. I mean, there's so many by now. So
Yeah. Interestingly, though, if you look at the markets right now, so I think they announced it maybe about 1 hour ago or less. Nothing's happening. I was expecting maybe especially the prefs who are very dependent on the Fed's rates for their pricing to maybe shoot up or at least do some movement. Some of them are up, some of them are down, some of them are flat. So you can see the market is all over the place. So that's an interesting take for me because it just shows that yeah, these prefs are still mispriced. Nobody knows how to price them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as Zings put it in our interview last week, it's just those prefs are mispriced by the market. It's completely irrational how they trade. All right, I think that was it for today. Maybe some final thoughts here from my end. I think we have reached a bottom finally, both in Bitcoin and in Bitcoin treasury companies. We're seeing Bitcoin slowly moving up, every indicator on green on the macro. And also the Bitcoin treasury companies are actually outperforming Bitcoin even on this slight move up. We see Metaplanet has been green on the last few trading days, trading almost up to 12% today. So it looks like the momentum is shifting a bit, and a lot of good news coming out of those companies. And again, for me, the most bullish sign is the liquidity of MSTR's common stock, and it shows that they still have a lot of possibilities to raise more capital to buy more Bitcoin. And at some point, the sellers will be exhausted here, and everybody who sold because of the 4-year cycle will have sold. And then, if the buying continues, there's only one way Bitcoin can go.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. I'm also very happy to see some green and in some cases a lot of green for some of those Bitcoin treasuries. What also gets me, as mentioned at the beginning of the episode, what got me really fired up was actually the big buy from Strategy earlier this week. I think it just shows strength and it's a positive signal as well to the market. And as Saylor puts it, they think they're exhausted. He mentioned that people are thinking that they're exhausted as buyers. They're not exhausted at all. They're just getting started. And I think most people don't understand that this is just the beginning of something so much bigger. So yeah, super excited for the next couple of weeks and even months and probably even actually 2026. I think is going to be a phenomenal year. So absolutely fired up here. All right, then thanks a lot for listening, and yeah, see you on the next one.
Bye bye, everybody. See you next time.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?